Welcome back. The papers, the social and traditional media all bring information daily on the turn and effects of the change and difficulties that many currently face in our world. Now, how do we avoid becoming victims? Our guest will fill in the gap when he joins us in a moment. Fondly called a Bora of psychology amongst psychologists in Nigeria, he's a teacher, a banker, a pioneer principal of Iman College, Amuwo Odofi, university counselor, Lasu Ojo, principal clinical psychologist, Federal Neuro Psychiatrist Hospital, Yaba, from where he retired. A go-to person on team efforts and currently lecturer, university, counselor, director of sports, and advanced bureau officer, Summit University, Offa. We're talking about none other than Dr. Mustapha Toyin Sanbe. He corrected me this morning. He's a good friend of the house, and it's my pleasure once again to welcome you. I'm giving you so much wahala. I am sorry. I'm sorry. Good morning. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good to see
I'm
you
beautiful.
again.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
you are looking so ready for us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks for
indeed.
making time out of your very busy schedule to be here. Now, mental health, depression, and suicide. Help us make some sense of all of this in our present circumstance and situation.
Thank you very much, Helen. Um, Mental health and suicide in the present day situation in Nigeria can be likened to trying to survive in the midst of extraneous factors. And that calls for what psychologists will call self-efficacy, which implies belief in self or muzzling up strength from self, which is called intrinsic factors to coping strategies rather than extrinsic factors, which are external of the individual. Essentially, the times are hard not only in Nigeria, very challenging across the world. Just as some people will go looking for trouble, some people will start trouble within. These are the dynamics of the challenges that we have that are challenging our mental health situation. And let me tell you for free that mental health, beyond extraneous elements, we should try to develop intrinsic capacity to cope, which means muzzling up or learning or consulting professionals like psychologists of whatever nomenclature to empower those who seem not really independently capable to resolving these issues. There are dynamics. They will come and they will go. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Well, my last guest talks about a place of denial, and for a lot of us, we are unable to grasp the reality that we are at a place where things are not as they should be, and we should do something about reversing the situation. As a professional, someone who has had one-on-one with a lot of people who have had mental health issues, talk to me about, how difficult or how easy or how rampant it is that people have been seen to come out openly, and say, I need help. I am going through this. I'm feeling this way. In an environment where, when you talk about mental health, the first thing that we think about is somebody has gone kolo, and does not want to be, seen as that. How easy is it for people to come out, to own up in our
Thank
environment?
you very much. Thank you very much. Mental health is not like physical health. where you can see conspicuous symptoms. The individual that is challenged with mental health might not even know at all. And it will surprise you, unpleasantly though, that some family members might not be able to recognize it. So it is a tough one. But I can tell you for free that the understanding of mental health issues in Nigeria is getting very much better. That is why we can have legislations here and there in favor of mental health. And mental health issues are not really as funded as it should be. Otherwise, psycho-education or psychological education should have been taken to primary health stage. Some of us have been pushing through the various houses of assembly, government, national assembly. Maybe at this stage I should mention Senator Dr. Olori Egbe for reasonably supporting the mental health bill to become an act. And that's a plus for us. And in Lagos State, so many laws have been made in favor of mental health. To that extent, there is still a lot of gap. A lot of gap in funding, a lot of gap in personnel training, a lot of gap in the dynamics of psychoeducation, a lot of gap in symptoms identification, a lot of gaps in facility that is attending to such matters. Don't be shocked that somebody could be staying around Sabo, Yaba, and will tell you that he cannot find his way to psychiatric hospital Yaba. The most sane community in my view, because I have seen Yaba bus stop, I have seen Sabo bus stop, and I have been into Yaba Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital. I can identify sanity from insanity. Wow. So these are issues.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so you just spoke about the symptoms identification in your word. And I would like to also add that could this be triggers? So what are they? How do we begin to identify, that a member of the family or an individual, for example, is getting to a point where there is need for concern? What are the triggers?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So many things can be triggers for varying individuals. Some individuals, their trigger will be strangers, for example, as we have in anxiety disorders. Some their triggers will be family dynamics, maybe father mother conflict, sibling rivalry, where parents are over expecting that two individual children in the family who have been eating from the same pot, who have been to the same school, who are given the same allowances, they should perform equally, forgetting that an individual is an individual. Classic. That is why psychologists talk about individual differences. Let me shock you. As many as we are on the surface of the earth, no two thumbprints are the same. Correct?
Yeah.
To that extent, that is how classic we are individually different. Moving forward, you will see that there is dynamics of nature nurture in the personality formation of an individual. Even in these dynamics, in the same environment, two children or more in the family, one will prefer amala, another one will prefer rice, and another one, it has to be ewa and dodo. So at any point in time that it is ewa and dodo, the one that prefers ewa and dodo, we have to collect for others.
Yeah.
These are dynamics.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is one man's meat is another man's poison.
Exactly.
Another person will see snake and jump up and say, this is meat. Another person will see rat and jump away or run away and say, wow. Meanwhile, the Chinese guy in our community will go hunting for the rat, with due respect.
So
these are issues.
the triggers are various. There are very many.
They are varied.
Okay.
That's why I went to town to give you examples. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
I hope I have not taken too much time on
No, no,
that.
no, you haven't. You are on course. Just this week, I read about two people, who committed suicide. There might be loads of others that I didn't come across. One in Lagos here, and one very prominent and very successful. Seemingly, yes, successful and happy, easygoing, enjoying everything that life has to offer. And the very next moment, she took her life. You talked about the triggers a while ago. How do we begin to identify, what are the symptoms? How do we identify when someone is almost on this path, at the verge of throwing in the towel?
Thank you very much. The only way you and I or some other professionals might just smell or tend to feel that something is wrong will be, in this part of the world, behavioral changes. Someone who seems to have been bubbling, who will greet anybody and everybody without prompting, or who is happy going or easy going. The easy going suddenly become really hyper in activity and wanting to be noticed all over the place. An intelligible neighbor will know that this is not this person's original conduct. Either way, the active one become irritable, the inactive one become overactive and will warmly receiving, albeit disinhibited, wanting to be friendly unnecessarily. Somebody that had always been like, if you want to go close, he gives you that something like a caution, don't come close. So these are subtle ways. Or if you listen to the person might look like talking sensibly at some point, then suddenly veering off discussion.
Wow.
More often than not, some other people will just jest at the person. Like I used to say, psychology is about psychological well being more than psychopathology. It is not about ill-health essentially. It is about well-being in health or ill-health. Just like I made a public position at KU8, which is Kwara University's 8 universities in Kwara State, just concluded their conference recently. And
Okay.
I mentioned that we need, by we, I mean human beings, Nigerians in particular, Lagos State especially, and humanity absolutely need to garnish all our activities with psychological components. Just like you rightly observed, what happened to that person that seemed bubbling, having everything going for him or her? Objectively, you and I might posit that that person is successful, but how about the subjective side of it?
Okay.
What is the whole in this person's life? Is the whole really as big as we will see it? Is it unsurmountable? Just like Yoruba will say, ọgbọ́n tán láyé ká wa lọ sọ́run. In other words, you can't shop for knowledge to the extent that you can't find that you say you want to go to heaven to look for it. Get to a psychologist. If the psychologist cannot really resolve that matter, he will be able to refer you to the appropriate professional who will fill in the gap. Nobody is unlimited.
Okay.
And
All
that
right.
is why the chunk of the enjoyment of services by psychologists is embedded in capacity to refer to the appropriate personnel.
All right.
So such
I have.
person will require evaluation, call it assessment,
Okay.
okay? Then you do psychodiagnosis, knowing what exactly is wrong,
Okay.
and administering psychological tests and instruments
Okay.
to be able to spotlight what. Let me give you one quick one. Two a married couple, the male is less interested in having sexual interaction and the female delights in it. At the point of premarital counseling services, this matter should have been resolved.
Okay.
But
Okay.
unfortunately, they married and the lady had to be traveling all the way from Lekki to get service in Ikeja. So you can imagine, it was when I administered the personality interest inventory
Okay.
on both of them that I discovered that they have sexual disparity, sexual interest disparity. So
Okay.
these are dynamics. I thank you.
All right then. Okay. I have just like maybe 2-3 minutes to wrap up this show, and I still have a few questions. I'd like to know, is mental health on the increase? And is it associated with any particular grade, age group? Is it more among the younger ones or among the elderly?
Thank you very much. Mental health, ill health component is on the increase. For the world population too is on the increase. Struggling for the same product is on the increase. Demand for health services is on the increase. University creation, private and public in Nigeria, is on the increase.
Okay.
Now let us look at what is the global phenomenon of the population that will come down with it. Anywhere in the world, take the census, you will find that the largest population is the adolescent and youth component side of the demography.
Okay.
So essentially, at the point that symptoms or diagnosis will be taking place is occurring more in adolescents and young adults.
Okay. All
It
right.
does not mean that the adults are not having issues, okay? Because at any stage in life, there is a thin line between sanity and insanity, and anybody can cross the boundary. So
Okay.
if one should cross, okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Finally, sir,
Yeah,
what can we
yeah.
do in the family, for example? What can each and every family member do at this point in time where things are so difficult, where the triggers are all around us? What can we do individually, to run away from mental health challenge? In a minute, sir.
Understanding self. Understanding self. Knowing that the other person too has his own cross to carry.
Okay. Okay.
And if you care to know, my late mom of blessed memory will say, Onikaluku abiti lara. In other words, everyone has his own hole to fill.
Okay. Okay.
And once you want to be understood, you too should be understanding.
All right.
Your view, as we speak, we only have the privilege of this opportunity. As we speak, we are not the best speakers in the world.
Sure.
We might not be the most heavily funded station in the world, but don't be surprised that somebody is benefiting immensely from this presentation.
Thank you.
That is the way it goes. Give and take, support, support, support. You can never over support.
Okay.
Otherwise, each family every day should be playing, we all need
Somebody to lean
somebody
on.
to lean on. And again, on a final note, Ola Oyaboro Tabareni Bala. In
Wow.
other words, if we cannot see somebody to support us adequately, the tendency for the road to seem longer and longer. And before we get there, there might be breakdown. Thank you very much.
Wow. You have gone so philosophical this morning, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Collectively, we believe with more information such as this, we can help save that person who is on the edge and about to give up. All right, the pleasure has been ours. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you have been able to share with us today. And we believe that somebody has been helped and blessed with that information. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Coming up next on Today with John and Helen live from Plus TV Africa is our Keep Fit segment. Dolly Phillips is always on standby. And when you do exercises as we advise, that can be one way, to stay happy and stay away from mental health challenge. So if Dolly is ready, let's join her in the gym.